Welcome to Finch Brothers Smokers Barbecue Review, where we try it before you buy it. Today, we made cherry Cheerwine ribs. I made a cherry jam glaze with some Texas pepper jelly, apple cherry habanero with a cherry seasoning, and cooked the best ribs. My wife said the best ribs I've ever made. These are Prairie Fresh USA Prime ribs. There's that Cheerwine, just going through the ingredients that you need. Get any kind of soda that you want. If you can get Cheerwine, get it. That cherry flavor is awesome. For your rub, just get any kind of cherry seasoning that you prefer. I know Three Little Pigs, I think is the name of it, has a touch of cherry. I know Heath Riles makes a cherry rub that's great. Burgerlicious Barbecue does. I use Simply Marvelous. Really love anything from Simply Marvelous. If you can find it, get it, order it, and start cooking your meat with it. These ribs pretty much come prepared out of the package. That silver skin membrane on the back of the ribs, you don't need to peel it off. These are full spares, and I got these from Crafty's Meat Market. They ordered them in. I bought it by the case. If you can find any kind of Prairie Fresh Prime, USA Prime products, get them. They're higher fat content, better marbling, which means more flavor. Also, it's more forgiving when you're cooking it. And I'm just going to get right into it here. I used some avocado oil to spray. I did cut off a little piece off the end there. Just a little short bone that I didn't want. Just thought the edge was a little too thin for my liking. And here's that Simply Marvelous cherry rub. I'm going about 18 to 24 inches. I mean, you can go 12 inches above where that meat sits, just to sprinkle the seasoning on evenly. And you're going to see me pat it in another rib video that I have. I show and talk about why we don't rub it in. You just don't want to create clumps of seasoning. Just gets too salty, too sweet, or too spicy. Patting that in and flip it to the other side. Now the more marbling, those white flecks of fat, you can see the white fat kind of ribbons throughout the meat. It's just, all that is flavor. When you cook that down, render it correctly, it just turns into pretty much a tastier piece of meat. It's just higher quality, and that's why those USA Primes are some of the best ribs you can get. And pork butts, they have pork bellies. Like I said, just dusting. On this seasoning, I am going just this one seasoning, just to stick with the cherry theme. Like I said, I'm using a cherry jam. I'll be making a glaze that I'll show you the whole recipe for, and I'll put that description down below. I season these pretty liberally because it's the only rub I'm using. This is after it sat for about 30 minutes, and you can see that it's starting to adhere to the meat with that Chosen Foods avocado oil that I spray on there. You can use mustard as a binder. I typically use mustard, but lately I've been using just a little bit of avocado oil to get my meat to stick, or seasoning to stick to the meat. And look at that nice color on there. It even changes the color of the fat when I'm cooking it. You can see the nice yellow fat bubbling when I'm getting that fat rendered down. This is the glaze I'm making. That's the cherry jam. My parents actually picked this up from Door County. This I think is this gal that owns the shop actually won the best pie in all of Door County, Wisconsin. And this chopped cherry jam it's really good. You can use cherry preserves to stick to this cherry recipe, and that's that apple cherry the cherry apple habanero rib candy. And there's that Cheerwine. I use about a half a cup of that Cheerwine with about 3 tablespoons, 2 heaping, about 3 tablespoons of the jam, and a 1/4 cup of that glaze. And I did get some photos early on. This is right after I set it out there. Actually started storming really bad when I was cooking these. We had a derecho is what they call it, and it has speeds, hurricane-like winds, and torrential downpours. We had flash flooding. We got over 3 inches of rain, and thankfully my good charcoal ran like a top on my char griller, Gravity 980. And there's another product, a little content there, cooking for something in the future. And here's my glaze. And I'm rubbing the spoon, scraping that across the bottom to kind of show that it's getting a little thicker. Some of that water has evaporated off. All I'm doing is cooking out that water to get it a more syrupy-like consistency. I did eventually add a little bit of apple cherry rib candy, all sweet, no heat. The habanero was a little bit too spicy for my wife and daughter. And this is about the 20-minute mark, about medium heat on the stove there. And it's bubbling away, caramelizing. It's the beautiful weather. It literally got so dark I had to film with my light on. It was only about, I think, 5 o'clock of the night here. This is about the 35-40 minute mark. Cooking at 300 degrees with a good charcoal, and I did use some cherry chunks of wood. Hearing that sizzling away. Those little spots of blood that are coming out, that's just natural. It's nothing you can really do about it except take a paper towel. You can blotch some of that blood off. It's not going to hurt you to eat it. You're going to be cooking it well above safe temperature. Honestly. But you can blot it off because it will get dark in those areas where that blood is. And take a paper towel, lightly dab that off, and hit it with just a little bit more seasoning. There, hopefully you can hear the storm. It just started picking up. The wind started raining sideways. And I wasn't able to film when it was raining its hardest. I did film a little bit after here. You can see how much rain is on the ground, but yeah, we literally got close to 3 inches in a couple 3 hours time, and water was gushing over the roof, and luckily my grill just kept chugging along, so I couldn't even get in there. I just had to hover in there, and I turned the light on for this next clip so you can actually see it. And I'm just peeking to make sure, one, I'm trying to shoot a video, and two, you can see I did dab up some of that rub, and that blood, and added more rub, and that took away some of those real dark spots. And just kind of hovering so I don't get too much rain on it to wash any of that seasoning away. And finally died down when I was getting close to wrapping. I cooked it at 300 for about 2.5, 3 hours. These spare ribs take a little bit longer than St. Louis or baby back ribs, just because they have that extra piece of meat up top with the little rib tips, and pretty close to the color I wanted. I think I pulled it after about 20 minutes, and I've got a video here of the wrap where I just used butter. There's the color I got on them. You can cook it to your preference. People like to do the 3-2-1 method, 3 hours in the smoke, 2 hours in the wrap, and 1 hour with the sauce. That's just a little too long on the smoke. For me, mine tend to dry out. I like to cook a little bit hotter, but you want to cook it to the color that you want, where you can scrape your finger on there so your seasoning doesn't come off. You can cook it without wrapping it. I do it because it cooks it a little bit faster, and it helps tenderize the ribs. So essentially I create a butter bath where I've got that. I put a whole stick of butter in, and this is the finished product here. I did use some of that glaze in the wrap along with some of that Cheerwine and Texas pepper jelly. That glaze it stuck to the ribs. It was sweet, A little bit of a touch of tartness from the cherry, which I really liked. This is an interesting bite. It just matched so well, paired really well with the pork flavor that you get from these really high quality prime, USA prime Prairie Fresh ribs. I pulled them. They were temping about 209 with my instant read thermometer, but I was just going for tenderness, and they had such great pullback. Like I said at the beginning of the video, my wife loved these ribs. They were her favorite ribs, and I really enjoyed the glaze with that Cheerwine, the cherry. It was sugary, sweet, and it was savory from that butter and the wrap. And those chunks of cherry were just, it was a nice fruity rib. It was delicious. And just some more videos here as we're finishing up. I want to thank the Good Charcoal for sponsoring today's video. Make sure that you go to thehomedepot.com to order it shipped to your house, and go to Sam's Club. These things were so juicy, so good. The Good Charcoal, this good food deserves good charcoal. There's a shot of that crust, that cherry wood chunks that I used, and some more shots of the finished product. They were perfectly tender, perfectly cooked, and I'm going to do this recipe again. I'm going to try it with other fruit. If you guys like today's video, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that alarm bell so you can find out when we create and drop another video, like that little tinfoil package. I've got a chicken recipe coming up here. And those look good. I wish we had some more, but we'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks again for watching.